Have you ever had an idea that was so clear it was like a 3D movie? Have you ever told a friend about the idea and they told you, wow, if you could only make that into a business, you would be rich? Sound familiar? Welcome to Knowledge to Currency. I'm your host, Senator Porter, with my co-host, Roosevelt Williams III, and we're here to help you take action. This is free information. We only ask one thing: build a strong foundation and mindset. We have insight to help you get started. Most of us just need a push.
Build that better. Tradition. Family.
Culture.
Business.
Community.
Welcome to the first edition of Knowledge to Currency. I'm your host, Nakia Porter, and here's my co-host,
Roosevelt Williams III, President and CEO of Young, Black, and in Business.
And we have a special guest today, Mrs. Racquel Vasquez, Mayor of Lemon Grove. Welcome to the show.
And thank you so very much for having me on your show today. Happy to be here, but also to represent my city, Lemon Grove.
Wonderful, wonderful. First, we'd like to ask you some questions, just basically kind of go over how you got into politics.
Well, I keep asking myself the same question: how did I get into politics? And I think that it is within a lifetime, certain things coming together. Just so that you know, I'm originally from the Los Angeles area, born and raised, and my upbringing was in the heart of the city. And I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. Her name is Rosanna Keeling. She's no longer here with us today. But my grandmother, from the time I was very, very young, she would encourage me to walk around the corner with her to the place where she would go and vote. And during this time, she would talk about the importance of voting. And this is what she would say to me. She would say, Racquel, it's important that you vote. And you vote in honor of the many men and women, African American, who lost their lives so that you could have the right to vote. But also the women's suffrage movement that gave women the right to vote. And if you don't like the people and you don't like the politics, you vote in honor of them. But she would also say to me, take a look around in your community. And if you see things that you don't like, do something about it. Now, we're talking about this message being shared with me from the time I was about 4 all the way up until I was in college. And I attended Cal State Northridge, nice. Which was in the Valley, Los Angeles area. 2-hour drive, and she would call me at my dorm on election day, and she would say, okay, honey, you know what day it is? I expect to see you here so that I can go and vote. And I would say, wow, Grandma, that's a 2-hour drive. She says, I know. We'll get there before the polls closed.
Okay.
And that really set the foundation for me to get involved. My family, I come from a working class family. My dad was a Teamster. He worked for Goodyear Tires, and then he also worked for Certified Grocers of California. And then my mom was a hairstylist.
There you go.
And she's well known for her work. And, I always had the opportunity to be involved in things that matter most to people of color, specifically Black people. My uncle was a president of the NAACP in Los Angeles early on in the late 70s, early 80s, and really worked to make sure that jobs for the city of Los Angeles were not contracted out, because most of the jobs that they were looking to contract out were the jobs are occupied by minorities, specifically Black people, and then to ensure that Coors hired minorities to do the work at their production plants that were located in Los Angeles. And I often remember going to meetings, although I was very young, and back then what they would do, they would put the kids in one room, give you a bunch of games to play, while the adults sat and strategized on how they were going to make sure that initiatives for Black people moved forward. One, to make sure that there was adequate transportation to and from work, but number two, to make sure that Black people had access to a fair wage so that they could take care of their families and put food on the table. Right. And so while I was in the room playing the games, we, the children, we could hear what they were talking about.
Sure.
And as I grew, got a little bit older, graduated from college, met my husband, got married, he served in the Navy. Okay. And when your spouse serves in the Navy, they operate off of an ethic of honor, courage, and commitment right. to this country. And while he would leave and serve our country for up to 6 months at a time, I worked my full-time job. We have 2 daughters. I would take care of our daughters while I was gone. And then that extra time, I spent that volunteering in the community. Because if my husband can make a sacrifice for our country, then I could take my extra time while he's gone and make that sacrifice and volunteer in my community. That led to opportunities to serve on boards and commissions. Mm-hmm. And with the request of the people that live in my city to run for city council, first person of any diversity elected to my city council, and that was in 2012. Right. And in 2016 to run for mayor of the city, and now I'm the longest tenure Black mayor in all of San Diego County.
Wow.
So when you decided to run, was like you were volunteering and stuff, but did you ever say, hey, I want to be the mayor? Or did someone say you'd be good? Like, how'd you get to that path?
I can say with conviction, I never said that. But it truly was the people of the community who planted the seed to grow in leadership. Okay. And when that opportunity presented itself, I talked with my family. It's really important to make sure that your family is on board when it comes to leadership, because what impacts you as a leader impacts your family greatly. And my family, they were on board, and we ran a campaign, and here we are today.
Well, congratulations. We were just talking about that it's Black History Month. You're a woman, Black woman, first Black woman, and you're having success, so that's something to be commended. We applaud you for that, for sure.
Absolutely, and just the way you present yourself, now I know where you get your elegance from, and why you're one of the illustrious mayors that we've ever had, because of your mother, and you come from a background of service, and just learning that from you. What keeps you inspired?
Well, what keeps me inspired, there are 2 things that inspire me. It's taking a look at where we are today and opportunities to connect and groom with the next set of leaders. The other thing that really keeps me inspired is being part of the process to create policy. You see, our nation was built on the backs of those who are minorities, greatly on the backs of Black Americans. And while we know that we have challenges when it comes to equality and fair treatment professionally, but in society, we know what the challenges are. We see the challenges, and we feel the impacts daily, each and every one of us. I'm not excluded.
Right.
So, just taking a look at the need for change and seeing the processes that are in place, and when things bubble up that are of concern to Black people and to all people, you see the protests take place. Mm-hmm. And the media gets involved, and the problem is identified. The question is, how do you work towards a solution?
Right.
And the solution is, number one, we need to have the voice. And we need to have the voice of our people when it comes to equality amplified, to raise awareness to the issues. But it's very, very, very important that when that occurs, that we have people in place to sit at the table to create policy and to change policy, because those are the things that govern the way we operate. Those are the things that are the laws that govern how we operate. And if we don't have someone sitting at the table, and not just one person, we need multiple people. Sure. If we don't have someone sitting at the table, crafting the laws, making the laws, changing the laws, then we're on the menu.
Yeah. Absolutely. And before we transition, the reason why I've always saluted you as a servant leader, because a couple of cliches. Instead of us agonizing, we're going to organize.
Yes.
And when we take an observation, we have an obligation.
Right.
And that translates into business, because knowledge to currency, our political power leads to environmental justice. And our purchasing power leads to that political power.
Absolutely.
So our purchasing power leads to political power, and our political power leads to environmental justice, things we want to see and make change.
I agree 100%.
Yes.
One of the things, as far as the process of you being elected and running for your position, could you kind of describe how that went?
Well, as I mentioned before, getting my family, which is very important to me, on board early on was key.
Right.
But then, in order to run for an office, there is a process.
Sure.
And that process begins with connecting with your political affiliation, whatever it may be.
Sure.
And letting them know that you are interested in serving in leadership.
Okay.
When that happens, opportunities will present itself for training, building a network of support in order to run for a particular office.
Okay.
One thing that I can say is that the journey is a remarkable journey, and it's not easy.
Sure.
But for those who truly have the desire to serve in leadership, they look at the challenges that are presented and they face those challenges head on. So it's connecting with your political party, building a network of support. That network will include those who are already elected in office to help guide you. Okay. And then that network of support of the financing, because if you want to run for office, it takes money to do so. and that's one of the biggest challenges is identifying where the money comes from to run for office. And then getting someone on board who is well versed in political campaigns. Okay. To really build a strategy to deliver the message to the voters so that they will vote for you.
And then this isn't the only thing you do. You have a job as well, right?
Yes,
so
I do.
Mother, you have a job.
Yes.
Like, it's not just you go and show up to podcasts and on TV, and it's a lot more to it, right?
Yes. And in terms of leadership and service, I consider my role as mayor. My approach is service to my community and giving back.
Okay.
And it is something that I truly love. It's in my heart to help others, to see what the needs are in a community. And this is why. My city is small.
Sure.
Lemon Grove, it's centrally located in San Diego County. And we have over 27,000 people.
Wow.
In fact, in San Diego County, with the 2020 census, our number of Black or African American residents, it was in 2010, it was 13%. We now have 15% in our city. So we have the second largest population
in San Diego,
in San Diego County.
Quite
yes.
Nice.
Did you know that?
I'm learning. Knowledge to currency.
Yes. And being part of that process to, number one, carve out a vision, and then to create policy to support that vision, and then to marry that with the money which are the tax dollars that are generated,
Right.
will help to either maintain or improve the quality of life in the city.
Right.
So I enjoy that.
Yeah,
It's like a
'cause
passion for me.
It's a good place to purchase a home, right, in that area, because of, like, right now, I think they said the average home price in San Diego is like over 899,600, I think the number is. So I'm sure Lemon Grove is a place where you can set roots and maybe not pay so much for a home, but still get the benefits of living in San Diego.
And I can say that Lemon Grove is, if it's not the most affordable place in all of San Diego County to buy a home or to purchase a home, it is one of the most affordable places to purchase a home or buy a home, or even to rent.
Sure.
And I believe that right now the average home in Lemon Grove, the asking price is probably about $650,000.
Ah, so it's like 200,000 less. So a lot of people, if you're looking to purchase, you might want to look at Lemon Grove.
Yes, and especially if you're a first-time home buyer. From a personal point of view, when my husband and I, we were looking for a home, we were essentially priced out of the market in 2001.
Wow.
And we looked everywhere, and at that time, people were offering $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 more than the asking price.
Sure.
And just so happened we were able to come across a very nice, I'll call it home, a starter home,
Sure.
to get us into the market.
Right.
And we were able to buy our home in Lemon Grove. And our thought at that time was, well, this is our starter home. We'll probably stay here 5 years
Sure.
and move on.
That's the plan.
But we
right?
got to Lemon Grove and discovered that it is really the best kept secret in all of San Diego County, because it is part of, it's right next to the 8th largest city in the United States of America. But it's a small city. So it has small town charm. And what I mean by that is, quickly, my neighbors got to know me, my husband and our daughters, and by name, which is a rarity.
Sure.
And we felt comfortable with allowing, at the time, our kids to go out and play, because someone was always out there watering the grass or trimming their hedges, and they looked out for our children. And when there was a need, often my neighbors would extend a hand.
Sure.
And so because of that small town feel and charm and having those connections, we're still there today.
Even though it's a big city, that being in that area,
It's a neighborhood.
It's a small
It's
city,
a neighborhood.
Yes.
which is good.
And as mayor, when I look at our small city, because our city is 3.88 square miles, I consider the entire city to be an extension of my backyard.
Okay.
And just like I hold close to my heart taking good care of my own home, because it's an extension of my backyard, it's important to take good care of the city, given the small dollars that we have.
Sure. It probably helps because you live there, then you know that your interests are our interests as well.
Absolutely. So the concerns of my neighbors are my concerns, because
sure.
I live it, I breathe it, I feel it every single day.
Sure.
And as mayor and having a council, it is our duty to look after the tax dollars that are generated, and to have the discussions on, how we can maintain our quality of life, but also put together a plan to make improvements. Because we need to, number one, support that vision, and then make sure that this city is ready to bring in the next generation of
Sure.
families.
Which
That's
is
important.
Absolutely. Yeah, with, like you said, home ownership is a start. With the stuff with the pandemic that's happened, what are some of the obstacles you had to overcome to help like small businesses?
Well, let me tell you, the pandemic was a challenge unlike no other.
Sure.
And of course, financially, but also the health and well-being of each and every person was at stake, and it's still at stake today.
Correct.
But also, just looking back, we also had systemic racism issues bubbling up throughout the county of San Diego, including the city of Lemon Grove. Now, there is no playbook out there that you can go to and say, what do you do when you have all three issues happening simultaneously? So basically, as a leader, and it wasn't just me, it was all mayors throughout the county, you're on your own. and coming up with creative ways to manage those three things simultaneously. Now, you talked about businesses and helping businesses. Just know that the tax dollars are truly the heart and soul of any city.
Sure.
And small business stems at the core because the majority of the tax dollars are generated by those small, local, family-owned businesses. And during COVID, there were federal dollars that were provided.
Sure.
And those federal dollars had guidelines set in terms of how you could spend the funding.
Sure.
One of those areas that we could spend that funding was to help small businesses. And so we prioritized $650,000 for our Lemon Grove businesses.
That's awesome.
In the form of grants, money that they didn't have to pay back in order to help them keep their doors open and do business. And so 73 businesses received grants up to $10,000 so that they could continue to generate those tax dollars for us.
Which is awesome.
The result of that is during COVID, our city made 25.4% more in tax dollars than we did in a non-COVID year.
Wow.
Business defibrillator.
Right.
Yes. And just know, before COVID, we had 261 businesses operating in our city.
Okay.
Today, we have 469.
Wow. So it doubled.
It doubled.
That's awesome. So what's some of the myths? Because like I talk to business owners and they don't understand that they can get grants, they can get help from folks like yourself. What are some of the, I guess, myths or people that don't understand the power of that you hear out there?
Well, one of the major challenges is the application process.
Sure.
And I believe that the application process can be intimidating
Sure.
for most business owners. But just know from a local level in our city, if there's an application that is available for grant funding through the city, city staff is willing to help walk you through that application.
Well,
the thing is that you got to make sure that you meet the criteria. Number one, making sure that you pay your business license fee on time.
Yeah, that's big.
And a few other things as well.
Sure.
And but staff will help you, and you have to get the application in on time.
Sure.
And with that said, if that is achieved, then you can qualify for grants. And it's not just from a city level. There are grant opportunities available at the county level, at the state level, and the federal level.
Yep.
When there is a curve that is in front of you and you quite don't know what direction to turn as a business owner, you can always reach out to those agencies and ask for help. Yeah. I think the biggest challenge that, well, maybe it's just everybody. We all have that challenge of asking for help.
Yeah, I agree.
And someone will be there to assist you. Mm-hmm. And no question is off the table. The major challenge is making sure that you actually ask those questions so that you can get the grant application done and that it's submitted so that you can get the funding, the grant funding that you don't have to pay back, so that you can maintain your business operation, but also improve, streamline your business operation.
Yeah, because a lot of times businesses, when they say they fail, it's because of funding or they're trying to do everything with their own money and have a job. And if they could get, I mean, even $5,000, that could put like somebody over to the next level where they needed to be. But in my experience, a lot of people don't know the process. They don't understand the process. They don't believe they qualify. And they've had a business like 10 years and file taxes and pay all the things necessary. But like, I don't know where to start. So it's good to know that you guys have resources to assist them to do those things because it's beneficial.
Now, if I can say this, we are in the process of receiving another round of federal funding of about $6.5 million. I know that one of the categories that we could apply some funding is providing grants to small businesses.
Okay. Does it have to be existing, or could it be startup, or both?
I don't have that answer right now.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that I can say is stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yes,
big
because the guidelines will be set.
Sure.
And those who are qualified to apply for funding will be able to do so. My goal is to replicate what we had in place during the height of COVID to ensure that our businesses can continue to operate. And based on the guidelines set by the federal government, if we are allowed to provide funding to startup or new businesses, we will do so.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is a lot of people say that people are exiting California and whatever, but if you can make it where they can make money, they're not going to leave because it's a beautiful place. San Diego's a wonderful city. Lemon Grove's obviously a wonderful city as well, so I'm sure that was something that we all want to achieve and go for.
One thing that I took note of is if it's business or if it's politics, it's all about the customer experience. Customer experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate how your city and other cities are actually helping businesses, helping constituents, get to the next level in these trying times.
Yeah, especially with COVID.
And it's being resourceful. And there's resources available, but you have to apply for them, and you have to make sure that you meet the criteria, and you have to do your diligence.
And even if you don't, find out what the criteria is and get it in order, because, I mean, to be honest, the last 2 years been a blur. Like, so much stuff has happened, from all types of different things. I won't go to the negative, but I'm just saying we the last 2 years have gone by quickly. So if you do get your stuff in order, another 2 years could go by. If you have to wait 2 years, if that's the guideline, you could get the grant at another time.
And I think essentially what it boils down to time and opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
And when those two things collide, that's when amazing things can happen. Yep. Amazing things in business, amazing things in quality of life, and amazing things in advancing not only our city, but our country.
I agree. No, I mean, you got to prepare yourself for that opportunity, even though you don't know when it's coming. But if you're ready, or what they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And guess what I say?
What's that?
I'm ready.
ready.
I like that too.
Ready like confetti. I say. And it's an honor to have you here.
Absolutely.
The first of, you said your sustainability, the longevity. If we can, before we conclude, what is next for you, and where can we find you?
My journey was kind of like a roller coaster. You make that decision to hop on board, and you pull the bar down, and you get ready to launch, and you go up that hill, and you have that anticipation of, the ride that you're going to take. I just know that with this right here, eventually a roller coaster will stop. But I think instead of the brakes locking in and slowing that car down, it's just going to keep going. Where the roller coaster will go, I don't know. I honestly do not know. Because if you would have asked me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, are you going to be a mayor of a city? I would say, absolutely not. You're crazy. It just wasn't on a vision board for me. It wasn't something that was on my list of things to do. It just kind of happened.
Sure.
And so, when you ask me what's next for me is to continue to serve and bring about added value to what we consider to be life.
Right.
In whatever fashion that may be. Right now, it's serving as mayor. I say tune in and watch. I'm watching too because, and actually, I want to know what's the next big thing.
Sure.
Right now, the only thing that I can say is to be continued.
Sure. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And that concludes our show. But before we stop recording, can you please share with us where we can follow you, where we can get your
Connect
message?
with you, yeah.
Yes, and so if you are willing to stay in connection with the city of Lemon Grove, you can always go to the city website, sign up for email updates, but also you can add me and the city on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But also, too, I want to stress the importance that just know as a leader, I have an open door policy where on Mondays, I meet with community members, organizations, business leaders, and so if you'd like to set up a meeting, you can always send me an email. My email address is on the city website and request a meeting. And I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and to discuss all things Lemon Grove, but also all things leadership.
That's amazing. Well, for our first guest, I definitely appreciate you coming to the show. We are honored to have you and hope to have you in the future.
And before we go, I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on this venture, this amazing venture. And I'm so happy and proud to be part of this journey. So thank you.
No, thank you.
It's a big honor to have you. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Mayor Racquel Vasquez.